Clarko, first up, Luke Davies-Uniacke, how did he get to and really play this weekend?
Yeah, well, he trained and trained okay, but we just need to see how he pulls up tomorrow, and if he does, then obviously we'll select him. He's a pretty important component of our side. So, but yeah, that'll all depend on how he pulled up. But he was able to do the full session today, so we'll hopefully be able to play.
Is there any issues with him in terms of maybe just taking a step back and getting bright for later in the year, or he can manage that?
No, we need all our best players playing now. Later in the year isn't really a contemplation for us right now. We just if they're available to play, they'll play, and he's just needs to get ticked off by the medicos tomorrow morning. If that's the case, then he'll run out there on Sunday.
Young Blake Drury, are we going to see a first gamer in him?
He'll be a chance. We've got to sit down this afternoon and select our side, but he's right in the mix. He was a carryover player last week. He's been playing some good footy, and it'll be exciting to see him get an opportunity soon. But if it's not this week, I'm hoping it'll be soon.
Jack Feeble, and is he right to go? And also Ben Cunnington moved off at one point.
I'm not sure what the situation with Cunners, but yeah, he's a tough cookie. Nothing will keep him out, I wouldn't reckon. But and same with Zeeps. He's just a real warrior for us, and carries injuries from time to time, but you would never know it the way that he plays the game. So he was able to do most of the session as well today. So unless something untoward happens over the next 24 hours, then he'll be available to play.
Really horrible injury to Charlie Comben just as he was getting settled in the side. Do you go with another tall to replace him and try a new combination up forward?
Yeah, we've just got to work that out once again this afternoon. In the second half last week when we had to put Griffin Logue forward for us, and we'll give some consideration to doing that, or Zurhar might have to play forward a little bit more than the midfield time that he's played. We'll give some consideration to a couple of rucks. So we need to work that out. We also need to look at the St Kilda side too. They're not overly tall in their side either. So they've had their own troubles with some injuries over the journey too. So we'll look at the balance of the sides and try and work out what the best mix is. But both sides have got a few injuries to some tools that they prefer that they didn't have. But that seems to be the trend right across the competition. The Tigers and West Coast, the poor buggers, they've got a dreadful injury list. And it just seems, the attrition rate of players early in the season has been really tough for a lot of clubs to deal with. And, the Pies have lost a lot of their tools, so, we're just having our little turn at it right now with two guys in CJ and Charlie both being out of the game by the second quarter last week. Made it a bit tough for us.
Hamish Free seems to be going well at VFL level. Is there someone who's in the frame this week?
Well, we need to give consideration to anyone that's above 6'4", to be fair. And Hammer's been going really well in the twos. He played his footy in the West last year and came to our club as a rookie and has acquitted himself really well. So if it's not this week, he's a little bit like Blake. At some point in time, he's going to get his chance pretty soon, I'm sure.
You were pretty philosophical after the loss against Melbourne. Obviously, they're at the other end of the spectrum, as you mentioned. But I mean, are you concerned at all with the ease of the scoring from turnover in particular in a couple of these losses?
Yeah, without a doubt. We played some pretty good footy in the first month of the year, really competitive and we're in games of footy. But when you have underperformance like we've had in the last 2 or 3 games, but it's particularly 2 of the games where you lose by significant margins, post 12-goal margins, you open yourself up to the criticism, and not that we welcome it, but we know that the game that we're in. We also know the long game that we're in too, and we're in a learning phase with all of our players, including some of the older players. The criticism, you're playing too many old fellas. We need to find out about those guys. Who are going to be here in the long term and who aren't, and what contribution can they make in the roles that we need them to play. And so we know that the future of the club is probably with the youth, but we can't dismiss the guys who are already at the club and have got roles to play, and they're wanting to know just what contribution they can make. So we need to determine that, and the results of that over the last 2 to 3 weeks wouldn't suggest that it's tracking in the right direction for us. But we need to put our head on the pillow at night knowing that we've given all our players equal opportunity to be able to put their best foot forward, and then it's up to them. And at least we know that they've had the chance to prove their worth.
How far off are we seeing Taron Thomas in the VFL?
Well, we're hopeful that he'll play this week in the VFL. I'm led to believe that the club and the AFL will just need to tick that off if they haven't already. I haven't actually checked with Todd Viney and Jen Watt on that as yet, but if that hasn't been done, it will be done, and we're hoping that he'll play. He's spent the last couple of weeks training the VFL program to do that for the next couple of weeks, but now with the availability to play, and then hopefully he'll be able to come back into the AFL program. But he's been doing an away from the club program with the VFL, but also doing some work with a cleaning business, and he's progressing along really well from what we're led to believe.
We saw him watching today. Looks like the boys have been really keen to get around him since he's come back.
Yeah, well, he came today. To his credit, his player sponsor was over from Tasmania today, and he wanted to come in and catch up with her. She sponsors about 4 or 5 of our players, and came to train to see those guys, and Taron was one of them. So it was good to see him here, and hopefully he can get himself back into the routine of AFL footy pretty soon.
What does it mean for the rest of the playing squad to have him at training today?
Well, I'm not sure too many of them actually knew that he was here until the last part of the session. That was the first time I saw him, was just at the back end of the session. So, listen, he's a listed player at our footy club and mates with the players. So they're keen for him to get his life sorted and get back to doing what he does really, really well, and that's play AFL footy. So hopefully that'll be pretty soon.
Have you spoken to him recently and sort of seen any, maybe not necessarily a light bulb moment, but any sort of change or what you wanted to see from Taron?
No, I haven't had an enormous amount to do with Taz over the last 4 weeks, to be fair. But he's been working with Todd and Jan and others around the club, and some of that and a lot of that has been away from the club. So that's. But at some point in time, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, he still needs to continue to train in the VFL program and play the games in the VFL, and in the next couple of weeks, hopefully he'll come back into the AFL program. And that's probably the time that I'll spend a fair bit of time with him.
Tasmania yesterday, Alastair. Tell us your thoughts on that when that was all finalised.
Yeah, well, it's exciting for the state, and I've been on record previously saying that it's not just great for footy, but it's great for the economy of that state. The footy has waned in its popularity down in that state over the it's like a slow drip feed over the last 20 to 30 years, and now there's a flag on the hill, which is AFL football and the Tasmanian team, that says there's a pathway for young boys and girls in that state to chase their dreams if they love the game, and certainly for those who live in the state to have their own team. It's a national competition. We've said right from the get-go. If it's a national competition, you need to have one from Tasmania, and probably the extension of that now. We've got 19 teams. Where's the 20th going to come from? And you'd have to think that somewhere up north. I know it's a long way off, but if we're a national competition, we're probably thinking that there should be something from the Northern Territory.
Is there enough player depth to go around to fill a 19th and a 20th side? And the way that they'll be entered is through the VFL in 25 and then the AFL in 28. Is the VFL program enough to get guys ready for AFL level? Yeah,
I think if you provide opportunity, there's so many kids that are chomping at the bit to play, and part of the reason why we don't open the doors to more young players getting exposure to AFL footy is that the minimum wage for an AFL player when they come in is $70,000. I've got a son that's 18 years of age that would play for nothing. Just wants the exposure, just the chance to play, and we've got so many out there. And you go and look at the amount of players at AFL footy that at 18, 19, 20 years of age weren't ready to play AFL footy. Rampy, he's captain of the Sydney Swans now, and for 3 or 4 years. Just couldn't get onto an AFL list, and if we just opened up the opportunity, but we're hamstrung by, we've got to pay these kids. Well, if they're just rookies and that's all they want is just exposure to a club, then pay them $10,000, $20,000 a year, have them just here part time, go and do some work, go and do your uni, and just develop in the AFL program until you are ready at 21, 22 years of age. It's what happens around the world. It's what happens in the US. They go through college as their amateur program, and then they become pros at 21, 22. So I think we could do something similar here, but even better, that they're exposed to the club, but they're just getting paid less, but we're hamstrung by salary cap.
So Marco, is it realistic for that team to be successful from game one and not compromise the rest of the competition?
Well, I think the competition would have learnt some lessons over the journey, and hopefully the draft won't be too compromised. But that's why, in the work that we're doing with the Tasmanian Task Force around the pathway program, it's like, get it started, but don't try and enter the competition too quick. If you want the team to get into the competition by 25 or 26, then you're going to have to get your players from somewhere, and it's either going to be opposition clubs or the draft. But if you make it 28 or 29 that they enter the competition, they can start their pathway program now, and that's really where they want to develop the crux of their players, is it's in their own system and from their own state. And so I'm hopeful that there'll need to be some dislocation of the normal draft process to bring in some talent to the club, but I'm hoping it won't be as significant what it was when GWS and Gold Coast, because they did catapult themselves into the competition in a quick space of time, and clubs were unable to prepare for just how dramatic the implications were going to be for the draft process itself.
Sorry, cut you off. Is it going to be hard to watch them build that from the ground up, and knowing you're not involved at the coalface there? Is that going to be a bit of FOMO for you?
No. Listen, I've had a lot of association with Tassie over a long period of time, obviously, and continue that with my role here at North Melbourne, and the connection we have with playing games at Blundstone, and that will continue for at least the next 3 years, which is exciting. So this club and Hawthorn will continue to provide AFL product for that state up until the time that the team comes into the competition, with hope. And but no, I'm excited for them. This isn't about me. This is about the Tassie people. I was involved with them for the best part of 12 months. Really, I did this much compared to some of the people that have been championing this cause for decades. And but I'm just so pleased for the people of Tassie that they finally got that team. And as I said earlier on, it's just as much an economic decision as it is a football decision.
We saw Patrick Dangerfield this morning. You might have seen it was a bit of training, saying that he'd maybe like to see Tasmania get access to, say, one contracted player from each club. How would you feel if someone came in, if Tassie came in and pinched one of the guys that you got locked in?
We can't afford to have anyone pinched from us at the minute. But listen, they'll work out the rules at some point in time, and there's all sorts of models right around the world when teams have been injected into the competition, how they've gone about it, and some of it has just been with raw talent through a draft type of process, and others have been uncontracted players. You've got to name your top 25 or thereabouts, and then anyone who's not in that top 25, then they're subjected to being offered a contract elsewhere. So I'm not sure what system they'll come up with, but hopefully it won't be one that as intrusive as what it was when Gold Coast and GWS came into the comp.
Alastair, just a broader, maybe on-field question, sort of about how you manage a game tactically, talking about Collingwood being able to come back from 4 goals and run over teams. And what's your sort of philosophy in regards to when you're 4 goals up, and sort of what you do to manage a game? Do you continue playing the way they got you up, or do you try and sort of go into salvation mode?
We haven't been in the position of being 4 goals up too often, unfortunately, but listen, they're a run and gun side, the Collingwood side, and they play with a real zip about with their footy right across the board, and it seems that they actually really enjoy those type of contests. For a team that's on top of the ladder, when I say only, we'd love to have this sort of percentage, but their percentage is 117 or something, which for a team that's on top isn't a significant percentage. That's the way they play their games, as competitive, contested brand of footy, but it's also quick. And nearly every side they've played against this year have been in the game against them. But such is their faith in one another and their belief in their process that they're able to do it for longer than their opposition, which is a real credit to them. They've been doing it. It's not just a fluke. They did it all last year, and they're doing it again this year. So they're a great football side, and we're not even in a position as a club yet to actually work out what we do when we're 4 goals up or 4 goals down. It's just trying to get the real basics of our side together, and we'll worry about that sort of stuff when we can get ourselves to the point like Collingwood where they can worry about the scenario type of stuff in their games. We just need to get the framework of our game and the fundamentals of our game stronger before we can really get to that stage of our development.
You'd have faced off against Ross Lyon a fair few times over the journey. What do you expect from him, from St Kilda this week? Yeah,
well, they've done a great job. Because they've had their fair share of injuries. Early in the season, their injury list was 10, 12, 15 players, and without one of them in particular in Ben King, who's their focal point. And I can only imagine when he comes into their side, they're going to be better for it. So, listen, they've done a terrific job, and they lost the game last week, but could quite easily have won. It was another game, a little bit like the Collingwood side. They're tight, tough contests, and Ross has always been a coach like that, and I'm sure we're going to see the same on Sunday. Good stuff. Go, Ask. How are you, lad? Didn't see you, mate.